Hey, Leafs fam, this is your lucky day. You're listening to the Leafs Convo Weekend Edition. It's all because of that blockbuster trade. I'm Norman James. Mike Augello is going to link up with us in like 2 seconds. We're going to talk about the Galchenyuk for Domi deal. What are they thinking in Montreal, and are they ready to explode with all that talent in Arizona? And what about the Maple Leafs now? Where do they look for more center help? They need assistance up the middle. We thought Max Domi would be an option for them. Clearly, he is not going to be wearing blue and white, but bleu blanc et rouge. So where do the Leafs go now? Plus, Mike Augello ready to pack his bags and head for the Lone Star State, Dallas, and the upcoming draft. Less than a week away now. Are the Leafs going to make that 25th pick? We'll discuss it. Mike's ready to go. I'm ready to go. I know you're ready to go. The Leafs Convo Weekend Edition starts right now. And here's our friend, Mike Augello from Buffalo, New York. So I'm just chilling out on a Friday night because that's what somebody in his early 40s with kids sleeping upstairs typically does. Nothing going on. I'm thinking ahead to the draft, 1 week out. Boom! Blockbuster trade, 1-for-1. The Coyotes and the Canadiens. Max Domi going to Montreal. Alex Galchenyuk going to the desert. Michael, what say you?
Good afternoon, Norman. Little surprised at this deal, and I mean, from the indications, and if on the one side, Montreal apparently has learned their lesson, and they're not going to play a player who is probably better as a winger at center. You know, they've gone through that with Galchenyuk. They've gone through that with Jonathan Drouin. Apparently, they're not going to put Max Domi through that torture because, I mean, even though I thought he might be a possibility for the Leafs as a third-line center, that was third line, not top six.
Mm-hmm.
I think Domi is a top six winger, and I think he's a talented player, and they got him at $3.15 million on a new deal that was just announced a while ago for 2 years, and he's under control for another 2 years after that. So I understand it from the Montreal point of view, but I think they gave up the better player. I think Galchenyuk, if Arizona doesn't go down the road that Montreal has a couple times and play him at center, because he's clearly shown that he can't play up the middle,
Mm-hmm.
be defensively responsible, they've got themselves a really good young player. So I think it's beneficial for both teams. They need changes of scenery.
Sure.
And, I don't particularly look fondly at the fact that we'll have to face Max Domi 4 or 5 times a year with the Habs, but I think it's a good deal for both teams. But I know that Bergevin's taking a lot of heat right now in Montreal.
Imagine someone named Domi becoming a hero in Montreal.
Yeah, that's true.
This is the Leafs Convo. Norman James along with Mike Augello. The Coyotes do have a lot of young players in the fray, and there was an expectation that this team was going to emerge. It hasn't happened. OEL signing a deal to stay with the Coyotes. That's a good thing. John Chayka's he's a poster child for analytics, a poster child for a new way of thinking, kind of like in the same mold as a Kyle Dubas. You bring in a Alex Galchenyuk who needed to get out of that pressure cooker, that social madhouse that is Montreal. I look at the Coyotes and I think to myself, if they got off to a good start and they get some puck luck and they get some good goaltending, this is a kind of team that can make some noise in the Western Conference. On the other hand, Montreal, I have a neighbor who's a Habs fan, and he says he's just quit. He's done with the Habs, and we know that's not the case. But it sounds to me like what Leaf fans were saying several years ago out of desperation. Now Montreal's in that situation. Is Max Domi going to an environment, Mike, that might not be good for his career, or do you think he thrives in that atmosphere, especially with a lot of turbulence and uncertainty ahead?
Well, he may thrive in it. I mean, first from the Arizona perspective, I mean, they did play well in the second half. They were historically bad in the first half, but they played better under Rick Tocchet in the second half of the season when nobody was looking. So there's the possibility of them improving, and they have a lot of young talent, guys like Dylan Strome and Clayton Keller, and I think with the addition of Galchenyuk, like I said, if they use him on the wing, then that's another quality forward. I was a little questioning the deal for Oliver Ekman-Larsson, but he clearly wants to stay in Arizona. I joked when I heard the deal, is clearly he's in favor of he likes 3 things: golf, weather, good weather, and not winning. But maybe it's unfair. and more golf. And maybe that's unfair because, maybe they have the talent to turn it around quickly, but you would think that a year away from being an unrestricted free agent, he would like to test the market, but he took a little less. He got the no move clause. And if he wants to stay in Arizona for 8 years, he's going to. So I think that team is on an upward track. There's a lot of talent there, but with Montreal, I mean, the only thing that's making them less of the appearance of a tire fire is the fact that Buffalo and Ottawa are in the same division. I mean, Bergevin, I think he's on his last legs if he doesn't win immediately, and they have their problems. Carey Price with his injury history, his new contract is kicking in. They're probably trading Max Pacioretty. There's some question about a number of the direction of the franchise and whether keeping Shea Weber over the next few years is the smart thing, or if they should go into a full rebuild. They have the number 3 pick in the draft, so there's so many things going on in Montreal. And honestly, looking at the Toronto perspective, where things are sort of orderly and calm under first Lou Lamoriello and Kyle Dubas, that's a good thing. It's good to have that calm right now.
The shoe's on the other foot. I'm waiting for Friday night in Dallas, Mike, and I can't wait for your coverage. Mike, our incredible reporter, is going to be headed to the Lone Star State, the Big D. I can't wait for Friday night. 3rd pick, Montreal, Marc Bergevin, or Gary Bettman gets up to the podium and says, Marc Bergevin has traded the 3rd overall pick for P.A. Parento. That is going to be incredible, and that'd be a nice way for Marc Bergevin to go out with an absolute catastrophic implosion. Let me ask you, Mike, about what the Leafs may do to upgrade their center position. As we've seen, this is our first time conversing since the Marlies won the Calder Cup Game 7 the other night. That was an incredible game. And the F-bombs from Mason Marchment afterwards, I love them. But we've seen that the Marlies have some cats who are ready and clawing, and they want to get up to the big team. However, Kyle Dubas may elect to seek out center help via trade, maybe even through free agency, John Tavares. What do the Leafs do now that Max Domi is a hab, and they do need a little bit of center assistance?
Not a great likelihood that they're going to re-sign Tyler Bozak. Tyler Bozak is going to probably get a 3 or 4 year deal in free agency, and I don't think the Leafs are interested in signing him to that lengthy of a contract. So, I mean, Ray Ferraro of TSN, who's a really astute commentator, was mentioning a guy like Jay Beagle as a potential center help for the Leafs. And although I like Jay Beagle and I think he'd be a good addition, he's more of a 4th line center than a 3rd line guy. And in free agency, you're going to overpay. He's making under $2 million right now, and you're talking probably $2.5 to $3 million on a deal for a guy like Jay Beagle. And I think that's one thing that Kyle Dubas is not going to do, is overpay in free agency. I think that the way they're going to go about it is they're going to probably try to trade for a 3rd line center. Now, I don't know, or sign a 3rd line center in free agency. It could be Joe Thornton if he doesn't see a path in San Jose to continue. There are a number of other options. There's some buyout possibilities. Yeah, players who get bought out from other teams that might be amenable to coming into Toronto for a 1-year contract. So I think they're going to go that direction. I don't see Miro Oltonen or Freddie Gauthier as answers as number 3 centers. So internally, there's a lot of answers for a number of positions, but there just isn't center depth in the organization that I think they can address the 3rd and 4th line centers internally. Maybe 1 position, but not 2.
We know Mike Babcock likes puck retrievers, so isn't Jay Beagle appropriate?
Well,
come on.
Yeah. That was good.
I like how it took you a couple of seconds to figure it out.
Yeah, delayed reaction there.
Hey, this is the Leafs Convo. I'm Norman James, along with Mike Jello. We'll wrap it up here in just a moment. Just to let you know, Mike's mailbag will return this coming Tuesday before he hits the road for the Lone Star State. Michael, hope you're packing, buddy. Anyway, we don't want to.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm packing sunscreen, lots of t-shirts because it's supposed to be over 100 degrees there, and I'm preparing myself. I'm bringing some Alka-Seltzer because I'm sure I'm going to be eating at least a couple times some barbecues out there.
Well, delicious, and depending on the moves that the Maple Leafs make, and the one and only Mark Bergevin, you may need that Tums, Alka-Seltzer, Nexium, whatever else you can pack to help out the GERD that usually is developed in all the hockey people. Come draft night. Last thing for you, Mike, in terms of the draft, we don't know. Something could happen literally an hour, 15 minutes before draft time or during the draft where Kyle Dubas and Lawrence Gilman and Brandon Pridham say, all right, hey, Brendan Shanahan, what do you think about this? Can we stamp it? Let's go for it. So we just never know. But at this point, it's at 50-50, right? Whether the Leafs make that 25th pick or do you think, it's us getting overly excited and generating too many expectations, and Kyle Dubas in his first draft running the show might just want to take the conservative approach.
Well, I think that's about right in terms of percentage. I think it's 50-50, but not just 50-50 in the sense that they may trade the pick, but also you got to remember Dubas, when he was in control of part of the draft in 2015, he traded back. He traded back twice. Mm-hmm. He traded back when he had I think it was the 24th pick from the Nashville, from the Cody Franzen deal. They traded back to 30th. I think it was Philadelphia. And then they traded back again and got extra seconds and thirds. And they got Travis Dermott with the second round pick, and they got Jeremy Bracco with another second round pick, and Martin Durkels with the third round pick. So he may do that, but I think if there's an opportunity there and there's a defenseman out there and a team like a Calgary who does not have a first round pick and they have one pick in the first 5 rounds, that's a team that I think will be hungry for a first round pick. And if there's an opportunity with the Leafs to get a TJ Brody or Dougie Hamilton and obviously it would be not a blockbuster, but a package deal, I don't think that Kyle Dubas is going to hesitate to trade the 25th overall pick.
Look, we know what the Maple Leafs need on defense. They have puck movers, puck carriers, possession guys, creative players. We know what they have there. They need a player who can balance out those talents and bring it home just a little bit. I'm super excited about it. One more question for you, Mike. Based on the Calder Cup run that the Marlies just put together, I'm so proud of those guys. I felt like a proud papa watching them celebrate because it meant so much to those players. There are a lot of those guys who will only have a cup of coffee in the NHL, if that. So that Calder Cup for them is the pinnacle of their hockey career. We just don't know who yet. However, you look at the Carl Grundstroms, you look at the Andreas Janssens. The Leafs would like to elevate those players into the big lineup at some point, but do you think this run for the Marlies has given Kyle Dubas more assets to potentially dangle out there for trade?
I think potentially. I mean, one of the things that's interesting is that in the world of hockey, and we saw that with the Caps, they're going to have guys like Beagle and John Carlson who are UFAs, and Philip Grubauer who might be traded in the next 3 or 4 days before draft. So the changeover is almost immediate. Ben Smith, the team captain, carrying around the Calder Cup on Thursday night at about 10 o'clock. And by 8 o'clock the next morning, he signs a 3-year deal with Alder Mannheim in the German league. So the changes are going to happen. You're going to see players who are going to get opportunities to get a job with the Leafs. And I think the Leafs may keep spots open for some of these Marley players like Grundstrom and Miro Aaltonen. And I think Andreas Janssen has got a spot.
He's so fun. Sure. Oh my goodness!
Right, but I think other players like Marchment, who had a great playoff and had a pretty good regular season, and Trevor Moore, they've elevated themselves into the pipeline. So I think that there are more prospects than we thought that they had at the AHL level. But I also think that there are going to be changes. I keep talking about Garrett Sparks. Garrett Sparks thinks he's an NHL goaltender, and he may very well be. But I'm not sure he's an NHL goaltender in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
He won't be able to clear waivers, and he might be part of the deal. So I think there's going to be changes. But I also think, if you saw the reaction of Kyle Dubas on the ice, you saw the reaction of Sheldon Keefe on the ice, and how gratified and how psyched they were for that team to win. It was great to see, and I know that some people were a little critical of how wild and how excited Kyle Dubas was when he got his hands on the call.
Oh, please. Anyway.
Championship in the city of Toronto in 51 years.
Please. He's like, hey, you know what? His youthful exuberance is great when he demonstrates this ability to think ahead and be innovative. But he's not allowed to show off the 32-year-old who has been grinding it out with a lot of players who are either older than him or his contemporaries. Give me a break. Who cares about them? Mike, we got to get out of here. How about you and I we'll get together for a big one on Tuesday. We'll do Mike's mailbag down, all right?
Sounds good. Thanks, Norman.
Hey, real quick before we go, our next episode of this podcast happens Tuesday of draft week. We're going to be doing a big Mike's mailbag before he heads off to Dallas. Hashtag Ask Mike in capital letters inside the YouTube comment section. You can also send your questions to us via Twitter at I Am Sportsheart, at the Leafs Convo, at Mike and Buffalo. And don't forget, you can buy a Leafs Convo t-shirt right now. There's like 2 weeks left to do so. The campaign ends then, but we are in the thick of it. Bonfire.com/TLC-gear. For Mike Augello, I'm Norman James. It's been a lot of fun. We'll talk to you Tuesday on the Leafs Convo. Peace.